are here live on site at all of your favorite northern tap room. We're at Castle Danger Brewery here with Maddie. Maddie, why don't you just real quick introduce yourself and kind of your role here with the team?
Yeah, for sure. I'm the marketing manager at Castle Danger. So I've been here for about 5.5 years. And just loving every minute of it. Pretty cool gig to have. So.
And I mean, we're looking outside right now. We're here in the middle of April and typical Minnesota, downing with snow. I mean, marketing manager, you've got a pretty tough job for half the year, I would say. Half the year, it's probably not too hard at all, but like what unique challenges with you being this far north? And again, you're kind of in the Duluth hub, but you're still a little bit more that destination spot. Like, what do you have to do to get stuff going in the off season?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely off season. We're very seasonal up here. We're trying to get more people up here in the winter. It's funny. People in Duluth are like, Harbours is like 2 hours away. And we're like, nah, it's like a half an hour away. Like, you'll be okay. Our staff, the majority of our staff drives up from Duluth every day. So we're like,
okay. So wait. So this isn't northern Duluth? Because I'm from the Vancouver area, and I mean, an hour north of Van is just North Van. You cross the Salish Strait, and it's Vancouver Island, as much as I like to call it Victoria Island. So was that the inspiration? I mean, for the name and everything was the location, and Castle Danger just started with that.
Yeah. So we started in Castle Danger, Minnesota, which is a township, and it's just shy of Gooseberry when you're going up the shore.
Sure.
And so Clint and Jamie McFarland, they started it in their garage. It was Clint's passion project. And he's like, I just want to start brewing beer. And so the name came from that location. They own and operate Castle Haven Cabins just on the shore of Lake Superior in Castle Danger. So they're like, and we're kind of a brewery where we like call it what it is. It's like a Castle Cream Ale, and it's a cream ale. So we're in Castle Danger, so Castle Danger Brewery. And it also turns out to be a pretty awesome name. So that's where it started. And then it was just a 3-barrel system. And we were just selling growlers to go to people going up the shore, going to the cabin, going to the, Boundary Waters, doing all that outdoorsy stuff. And that's really how we got our start, just through growlers, not really doing anything, not doing any cans yet, nothing like that. We had a couple of accounts in the area that would sell our beer on tap. We would fill some kegs for them. And it just got to the point where we would sell out of growlers all the time. And so we were like, well, maybe we should do the damn thing. So we acquired this property. This used to be an old YMCA property in Harbours, and we
Could have fooled me.
Yeah, right. Yep. And that was, we broke ground 2013, opened doors in 2014, and that was like one of the coldest winters. It was like over 100 days under below zero, or under zero, below zero, and it was crazy. I wasn't here back then, but I've seen the pictures and heard the stories. So anyway, that's when we moved production to Harbours. And we really do want to support the community here. That's really important to us. And since Clint and Jamie are from Harbours, they really wanted to keep it here and not, move to Duluth. They really wanted to support the local community here and the economy and bring jobs to Harbours. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, and that's such a big thing that we hear across all the breweries in different senses, right? Like it's very much a community hub. Like you're here for the community. The community's here for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, you talked about coming in and renovating this space that, again, I don't believe you that this is the YMCA, but.
Well, we tore that down and rebuilt. Yeah.
Okay. So it was totally rebuilt. So talk then about, I mean, what you guys have cultivated here just from a locational standpoint. Like we were talking a little bit before jumping on just about some of the things we like and dislike about other tap rooms. Like what have you guys really done to kind of build that community internally?
Just for the tap room itself, this is all like Clint's vision of just like the aesthetics, the vibe, being able to see like Superior, wanting it to be a really like calming place for people to come on the North Shore. We don't have TVs, we don't have a rowdy group, although it can get rowdy. But this was just kind of his vision for the whole thing. And we really wanted to kind of be that North Shore escape, and be very tied to the vibe of the North Shore. When people think of the North Shore of Minnesota, it's this very like chilled vibe, you know, relaxation, vacation. And that's kind of, you know, why we're so seasonal. A lot of people come up in the summertime, but we have Lutzen Resort up, you know, to the north of us. And there are winter enthusiasts who come here in the off season. It's just definitely not as slamming as it is in the summertime.
Well, to build off that vision piece, I know that traditional practices are you know, a big deal here at Castle Danger, and flavors in particular. Speak to that a little bit, the traditional practices and why, you know, just starting at the base of your flavor for beer, you know, is so important rather than the end game of what you're trying to achieve.
For sure. One of our core values is quality and consistency, and we kind of bring everything back down to that at its core. When we started the brewery, we started by brewing. I'm the marketing gal, and I was brought on 5 years into the company's existence. So they really wanted to focus on just the beer. And that's Clint likes doing everything to perfection. And that bleeds into the rest of our brewery as well. Like our head brewer is the same way. Our quality manager is the same way. Packaging manager is the same way. Taproom manager is the same way. It's just, we keep it very, we experiment for sure, but we like basing everything off of that traditional recipe and that kind of more simplistic style to brewing, and letting the beer really speak for itself. We are not one to add a bunch of juice and donuts and cereal and everything to our beer, although some of those can be really delicious. That's just not really our style. We really focus on the 4 ingredients, you know, water, hops, yeast, and grain. So that's kind of where it all started.
As far as the brewing practices, though, is there anything that separates you from, I guess, the rest and the vast Duluth and even Twin City breweries as far as how the beer is made that's more traditional than, let's say, the modern practices?
Not really. No. Yeah. We keep it more like the recipe is more traditional. Okay. Our brewing process is pretty straightforward. We are a big proponent of like yeast really makes the beer. So we don't have a ton of different yeast strains that we use in our beer, but we have a fair few, probably more than a not normal, but any other brewery would have. So we do some, we do things based off of that, I guess. It's a good way to put it.
And I mean, to your point of keeping it simple, right? Not overcomplicating it, not throwing donuts, cereal, whatever in. It's very fitting that you led earlier by saying the Castle Danger Cream Ale is a cream ale, because that is more or less like the beer that you guys are known for. Like it's really rare too to have people call a brewery out for their cream ale. Right. Like, talk to me about just how you've established that and just how much you guys pride yourself in this.
Look at my face. It's so good.
So the cream ale actually was the first thought up as a seasonal beer, and to have it in the summertime, something light and refreshing to have in the summertime. And we were just going through it like crazy. And one of our sales reps was like, we really should keep this around year round. So we started to, and it was, we're so lucky that we have it. It's a great entry-level beer for people who are used to the domestics and used to light beers to kind of dip their toe into craft beer. And I think when we started being the 25th craft brewery to be established in Minnesota, and now there's over 200, we kind of hit that right when the market was taking off into craft beer. So you had a lot of people who hadn't tried it and wanted to get into it because it's the cool new thing to do. And so they're like, oh, I'll try this light beer. And there's definitely body to it. It's definitely a craft beer, but it's very light, very approachable, sweeter. So it doesn't hit you over the head with hops or anything like that. It's just a steady beer that you can have no matter what the weather's doing outside, no matter if you're watching a sports game, hockey game. That's my sport knowledge coming out. Or you're reading a book and relaxing, you know, it's kind of that go-to beer. And we're very lucky that it's done what it has for us. So yeah.
Hobby, you talk about it a little bit because I know cream ale, I mean, you like most beers. Cream ales aren't necessarily your go-to, but you know, what about this one separates it from some of the others that you've tried recently?
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing, right? Like Maddie just said, it's just such a good introductory beer, right? Because this is something that I can drink. I know this is craft beer. Like it's a very clean, simple beer, but you can tell that like nothing was missed, right? Going back to the basics, the tradition that you guys are upholding, like a very solid beer. Like he said, I occasionally like the donut and the cereal in my beer, right? I like the juicy IPAs, whatever, but I like when you can try a beer and you know, like, okay, they're not trying to do anything fancy. They're not trying to be gimmicky, and I can still drink it and appreciate how good the beer quality is itself. So that's what stands out to me personally. You though, Isha, you're bigger. Like you tell me, like you love cream ales. Like you go for the cream ales. Like how does this compare to what you've had on the island?
Honestly, this is the best one I've ever had.
Oh,
and it's for everything that you said and that Hoppy said here, in that like it's not missing anything. Where some cream ales, whether they're craft or like the Sleemans or whatnot, like there's it always leaves me wanting more. Like, okay, this is a good cream ale, but I feel like there's something more to it. This honestly hits on all of it, and you don't have to go any crazier because then it kind of defeats the purpose of what this is. So this is unbelievable. So everyone watching, Castle Danger cream ale.
And like you said, right? Like there's a little bit more body to it too. Like a lot of cream ales I have, like they're almost a little too light or too like
almost like a
far on the cream side, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this like has some of those characteristics, but it's still got a little something to it.
Yeah.
I can't quite put my finger on it. Like I don't know on Untapped how I would describe that aspect, but there's just a little something to it that's not just like basic, clean, light, you know?
Yeah, it's I can't give away the recipe, but
we're not asking for it.
Guess what? If you gave it away, I don't think we'd be able to replicate it anyway.
But it's very special, and like I said, we're just lucky that we have it. So thank you. Yeah.
So talk about the rest of your beers then. I mean, obviously, like you said, you're not like reinventing the wheel. You're not doing anything crazy out of bounds.
Right.
Just putting together really solid traditional beers. Like, what are the mainstays in the tap room? Like, what are people coming here for besides the cream ale?
For sure. Yeah. Something I mentioned when describing the cream ale is approachable. And we do try to keep our beers really approachable, whether it's an IPA, a lager, a stout, a pale ale. So that's the lineup. We try to have a diverse lineup of beer. So we try to have something like in every color, definitely not every style because there's so many. Yeah. But we, have our IPA, IPAs, plural, a pale ale. We have an amber lager. We're going to be coming out with a premium lager this summer. Little tease. And so we just try to brew approachable beer that kind of targets different beer drinkers. Sure. But it all brings it back to that, like, we don't want to put out anything that we wouldn't drink ourselves. Like we truly stand behind all of the beers that we brew. And we don't have a ton. We're not coming out with a different beer every week. We do have a pilot system, which is relatively new. So that allows our brewers to experiment a little bit, when they're not brewing cream ale or our oat IPA. Yeah. So they get to experiment a little bit, which is fun.
I went out and visited the Labatt tap room in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
And they literally have a whole side tap room specifically for experimentals where you just go in, they'll give you a flight, you try it, let them know what you think.
Yep.
And like one of their newer releases, like came because it was just so highly sought in that experimental room. So it's cool to like you said, you guys are trying to stay traditional, but to have that ground to kind of safely go and test that out. And I mean, you guys are pioneers in the space. I understand what I have here is a hazy IPA. I've never heard of one of those. Talk me through how you landed on such an outlandish concept.
Yeah. We thought we heard about it a few years ago and we're like, nah, like that's not for us. And No, a hazy IPA it's a widely brewed beer these days. I think we're probably the last brewery ever to come out with one. Everyone has pretty much come out with a hazy IPA, but really started as a passion project from our brewers. We were kind of holdouts on the hazy because we were just like, oh, we just don't want to be part of the trends. Like, if we want to do it, we want to do it right.
Yeah.
And so there's a handful of our brewers who are like, no, like, we're going to brew one. We're going to brew one and it's going to be really good. Like, that we can stand behind it and be like, this is Castle Danger's hazy IPA. So this is Aurora Haze.
Aurora Haze.
Yep. And it's brand new, released early April. So it's a really juicy, fruity, but also super balanced, not too bitter, hazy IPA.
Mm-hmm.
And even down to like the haze of it, we wanted to brew that so the haze is stable. You know, you're not thinking that, you know, a couple months from now when you pour that beer, it's going to be crystal clear. We really wanted to have that haze stability when we were brewing it as well. So that kind of goes back to the pilot system. We started experimenting with that.
Okay.
And we developed this recipe basically out of a labor of love with our brewers. And it was something that, you know, our founder Clint was finally like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about it. It's named after the Northern Lights that you see dancing on the northern sky in northern Minnesota and over Lake Superior. And yeah, it's a great beer, and it's really just kicking off like crazy in the market. So
yeah, and I mean, I can speak to it too.
This is his
balanced. Balanced is like definitely the word I would have used. So I'm glad you said that. It's unique in the sense that like a lot of the hazy IPAs, like you kind of go into it and you taste it and you're like, that's the fruit. Like it's this one fruit. And for me, like there's fruit. I couldn't tell you which fruit though. It's just a nice, like subtle balance of fruits, and it's not overly bitter. Like Isha will tell you, I'm not a West Coast IPA guy. Like I don't want a pine tree in my beer, right? So like the fact that it is more balanced, subtle, not overly bitter, like this is right in my wheelhouse for sure. I don't know, Isha, what do you think about it?
No, I mean, Hoppy did say that. I do like the pine trees, but no, balanced. I mean, super flavorful as well, and nothing's overpowering, right? Like you said, it's not too bitter, it's not too sweet, and that's with me. Like I like the peanut butter beers and things like that too, but anything too sweet for me, it's like I'm not drinking beer, you know, for the sugar, right? So when you go to the fruitier beers, even as simple as like a raspberry ale or something, like I want like a little tone of it, but I don't want it to be overpowering. And that's what I love about this. You know, it's definitely the fruits there. You get that fruity flavor, but it's balanced, and that seems to be the theme of Castle Danger thus far with what we've tried. You know, very balanced, and like you said, you do everything right. So I'm really impressed, and this is amazing.
Thank you.
And one more beer that I have to touch on because I'm so excited. It sounds like we're going to be getting even more of it from one of your seasonals, your Maple Marzen, which I actually had for the first time, came out in 2019, little anniversary trip with the wife that I've talked about more times than people probably care about on the podcast, but it was delightful. And we get here, Maddie, absolute zoo. Like we're like, holy crap, we knew they were popular, but we didn't know they were this popular. Wait in this massive line, finally get in September 30th. And well, Maddie, you can probably tell me why it was so busy that day, which I kind of learned firsthand on site.
Yeah, that was the last day that we could sell growlers. In Minnesota, there's a growler cap. It's actually a double cap. We're limited to how many barrels of beer that we can sell offsite per year. And we're also limited on if we're producing a certain amount of beer per year, then we can no longer sell offsite after that. Or off sale, excuse me. So off sale is growlers, crowlers, literally any beer to go. So that was the last day that we could, because we had surpassed the 20,000 barrel of beer a year cap in Minnesota. And so since then, and actually before then, we really have been trying to change that law, update it, to be more current with the beer industry, craft beer industry in Minnesota. We lost it in 2019. There are others who are going to lose it after us. And we see growlers as a marketing tool, right? And so the reason that the cap is in place is to protect the 3-tiered system in Minnesota, which is the producers, the distributors, and the retailers. And so they feel like if you're producing so much beer, then, and you're selling off, growlers, crowlers, everything, that you're taking too much of the chunk of that pie, too much of a piece of the pie. When in fact, growlers actually push more beer through that distribution channel to the liquor stores, to the bars and restaurants, because that beer was able to get out in a growler and be shared with so many more people who are even, at the brewery. It's where we can get those trial pilot system beers that we have only on tap here in the mouths of more people outside of our tap room. And so it's been a fight. It's definitely hard to change things in Minnesota. We kind of like the steady Eddie. We like to keep it the way it is.
Someday I'll be able to legally bet on sports here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Sunday liquor sales, we didn't get that until a few years ago.
Mind-blowing.
He wasn't aware of that until he got here and I was talking to him about it.
That took a very long time. So, we're optimistic that we can change the law. We're working with a handful of the larger breweries as well as the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild to connect with lawmakers, to connect with different members of the 3-tiered system to try to make some headway. So hopefully we'll get them back. But yeah, that September 30th, 2019, I'm sure I was here when you were here because I was here until after close, until the last minute that we could sell growlers. And we sold, I think, upwards of 475 growlers, 64 fluid ounce growlers that day. That was just the 64 fluid ounce growlers. Then there were mini growlers that we had as well that we were selling.
It makes no sense, right? Because 2019, when I came here, I wasn't even aware that the growler cap existed. There's so many things too. You guys have been pioneers in pushing the, free the growler cap. Then there's, friends of ours like Back Channel who have really been beating the drum on let us sell 4-packs out of the tap room, right?
I can't believe that either.
It makes
just for the local economies, right? It doesn't make sense.
But we were just across the water over in Superior the other day. Pull out a 6-pack, no problem. Buy it. Why is it like that? For me as a consumer, that bothers me because guess what? I'm going to go to the liquor store if I'm going to go to the liquor store. Yeah. But if I'm at a tap room, I like a beer. I say I want more of this beer. I want to be able to grab it right there. Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest. I know there's been a lot of advancements in the distribution model, but it's fresher out of the tap room. Right. I want to get a better beer.
Right. Yeah. As a customer, you see that as right. You're supporting that brewery.
Exactly.
And you want to support that brewery and be able to buy cans to go. Or, for us, we really want growlers back.
Yep.
Even if we were to move forward with the 4 and 6-packs, we aren't sure if that would work with our business model. Right. But just having that, we had to lay off staff when we were no longer able to sell them. And that's really hard. And it just brought a lot of people, even if they were passing through, because you've been here in the summer, it's crazy busy going up the shore. And so people who don't want to stop in and have a beer, they would just stop, grab a growler and continue their way up the shore. They don't even do that anymore. So there's people who just, pass us by because they don't want to come here and have a beer. We're still very fortunate and plenty busy in the summertime, but there's just all of that business that Two Harbors could capture on, our local economy could benefit from. And we're not getting that business anymore because we can't sell it. So it's tough. We're trying.
It's brutal. But like you said, right now doing whatever you can to deal with that while we deal with legislation. And obviously on our side, we're doing everything we can to share whenever there's, the mass outreach, right? Reach out to your representatives, whatever. It seems like we're making good headway, especially because it seems like a lot of the issues that, like you said, you guys aren't as worried about the 4-packs, 6-packs. There's other breweries that aren't as worried about the growler, but it seems like everyone's coming together and trying to push everything, which is the biggest thing, right? It's a unified front now.
Yeah, we definitely we want to get Minnesota craft breweries on the same page. Right now, with the caps and the limitations, there's so much division within like the larger breweries and the smaller breweries. And we just want, like, we were once a small brewery. Yeah. We never thought we would be where we are right now. Never, ever thought we would be here. And so we just want to make sure that no one ever has to go through this again. And if we can unify all of the craft breweries in Minnesota, we can move forward with other things that we want to achieve in the future as one entity. And it's not the little guys versus the big guys. And I hate even like referencing it like that, because like I said, we were once a small brewery, and we're trying to do it for everyone. So hopefully we'll get there. I don't know if we'll see.
Now I do have, though, to back at the genesis of that topic, the Maple Marzen, which is probably my favorite beer that I've ever had here.
Yeah.
It sounds like that seasonal is actually going to be available in liquor stores.
Yeah, actually this year will be the first year that we're going to be canning that beer, which is really exciting. Nice. So that's kind of our Oktoberfest fall option. It's a traditional German style beer. It was actually, the name Marzen comes from March. And so it was traditionally brewed in March, and then it lagered over the summertime, just because of the availability of ingredients at the time. And so that's how that style came about. And we add local maple syrup to ours. We don't actually brew it in March anymore because we have updated brewing technologies now that weren't back then. So it's actually going to be available in August leading into the Oktoberfest season. And it'll stick around on tap probably into early winter, but cans will be available August, September, and some of October. Yeah.
And everyone, I could not advocate higher for it. Like when that was the growler that I got, that last moment I could grab it. I was drinking it for the puck drop season opener of the NHL season a week later. Like, everyone, please try that as soon as it's out in cans. You will not regret it, unless you just don't like good beer. Then I can't help you. I can't help you.
Matt, again, this is unbelievable. I want to thank you for your time. I got a few more, and I want to pivot now just to, I'm an artist, I'm a musician too. This might be a funny question, but does everything around Lake Superior, like, you know, the waves, the wind, maybe even like the animals, the birds, does all that play a part in the creation of the beer, the inspiration from an artistic point of view?
Yeah, for sure. If you look at our can artwork, a lot of it pulls from the natural landscape of the North Shore of Minnesota. Our North Shore Lager can is actually a scene from Gooseberry Falls.
Oh, wow.
And we work with a graphic designer who does this kind of like woodcut design to our artwork and our cans. And
you wouldn't say.
Cartons. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of wood in our tap room. Yeah, so we definitely draw from the North Shore. You know, in our mission statements, and we just say that the North Shore of Minnesota is a very special place. So the crash of the waves on the shore, you know, it's the scenic drive, and it's fishing, casting a line, looking at the stars, no sun pollution. You know, we really want to transport people to the North Shore when they're drinking our beer, when they're looking at our beer on the shelf. And it's a huge inspiration. And I'd have to say one of the biggest benefits of being here is actually the water. Lake Superior water is like the purest water that you could ever brew with. And we truly believe that, like, if we were to pick up and move to anywhere else, then our beer would not taste the same. We very much credit a lot of the natural characteristics of Lake Superior water.
That's really interesting, because like you hear that a lot in like distilling, right? Like the reason that Kentucky bourbon whiskey is so different is because of the water that they have there. I honestly didn't even think about that as far as beer is concerned, because again, my brain's still jumbled up thinking about the donuts and the cereal. But like that's actually a really interesting point.
Yeah, we're very, very lucky. And you know, it also brings awareness to not just our brewery, but all other breweries who are like in Duluth and all feeding from Lake Superior water. Like, we truly believe that the Duluth to Harbours Superior beer scene is like biased, but like the best in Minnesota and the surrounding area, just because of this freshwater resource.
I'm going to be honest. Like, we've pumped it endlessly on our podcast. we think that like it is peak of the country, like period. Like
Yeah.
we love a lot of the stuff in the Twin Cities, don't get me wrong, but just when you think about the condensed space, like per capita, right? Let's throw out big boy terms. Like there's some really good breweries all isolated here in this area. It's really cool. And obviously you've got the lock on Two Harbours. You are the best brewery in Two Harbours. It's indisputable. I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, where are you going to be on the weekend when you're out in Duluth?
In Duluth?
Yeah.
We love our friends at Ursa Minor. I personally really love their beer. Also, we're great friends with Bent Paddle. I also dig their beer in their space. They've always got live music happening and a bunch of different pockets in their tap room. So it kind of depends on how you're feeling. You can sit in different locations in their tap room depending on the day. Cool. If you want to belly up to the bar, if you want to be by like a cozy fireplace, they've got it all. Earth Rider, which is over the bridge in Superior. They're one of my personal favorites in the area.
Awesome vibe there. I
super awesome vibe. Yeah.
You gushed over it.
The Cedar Lounge is like peak.
It's so nice.
It's a really great space.
You get the towny dive bar.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Just with good beer.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Cedar Lounge has been around pre-Earth Rider. So it had that history behind it. And then they kind of utilize that as their taproom space for Earth Rider beer. Nice. Yeah, it's awesome. And shout out to their head brewer, Allison. She's just pretty kick-ass. So.
I think that might have been who we met actually yesterday. But anyways, my last question here, we talked a little bit about some of the hurdles, especially with, the growler cap that you and Castle Danger have overcome. What are some of your proudest accomplishments, throughout the years of you working with the brewery, but also maybe just from the start that you've heard from?
Yeah. Personally, I think getting us to where we are today and seeing the gains like in our social platforms and the work that I've done personally to brand our brewery and promote that and spread that, that has been one of my proudest achievements. It gets trickier because we really want to focus on Minnesota and select border territories like in Wisconsin, North Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota. So the further you get away from Lake Superior, it gets to be a bit of a challenge because not everyone has been to the North Shore. Yeah. Not everyone has been here. And that's such a huge part of who we are. So then my job is to translate that and to make that approachable to people who have never been here. And also we want everyone to come here. So it's been really great. And like I mentioned, never did we think we would be where we are today, brewing the amount of barrels that we brew in a year and having beers like Cream Ale take off. I think that for the company as a whole, we're all just so proud of everything that we've done to get to this place, focusing on quality and consistency, making sure that we would much rather dump a batch if it's not perfect, which sucks. We would rather dump a batch than send it out and have it not be up to our standards, our high standards. So I think at the end of the day, we're focusing on the beer and the beer will sell itself. We have a sales team who are awesome and they're the nicest guys you'll ever meet. They definitely do a lot of that as well. But yeah, it just comes back down to the beer and how we've been able to focus on that. And and last March 1st, 2021 was our 10-year anniversary. So that was a huge year for us. Yep. We celebrate our anniversary in August because, as you can see, Minnesota isn't the nicest time in the spring.
Yeah, that's fair.
What are you talking about? It's beautiful outside.
I mean, it is. I'm ready for a bit of a change personally, but so we celebrate in August. So having and we had taken a year off because of 2020 to have our anniversary party. So last year when we were all able to welcome people back to the tap room and have that celebration of 10 years of brewing our dangerously good beer. And it just was an emotional day for a lot of us. But we're looking forward to the next 10 and being able to brew more beer and do some different things in the future. Yeah, that's a really long-winded answer to your question.
That's amazing. No, that's amazing. Yeah.
And
anything else?
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, everything you just talked about, right? with us hopefully kind of steering and leaning a little bit out of everything we've dealt with the past couple of years with COVID, like what do you have planned? What's coming up here this summer? Like why should everyone be following you on Facebook, Twitter, whatever social handles? Like what can they expect?
For sure. Well, we've got some fun new beers coming out. Like we mentioned, Aurora Haze. We've got a premium lager on the way, canning Maple Marzen. We have a lot of fun stuff happening with the pilot system here. So definitely want to draw people to the taproom space. We are looking to grow, and what that means exactly, we're not quite sure, but we know that we're getting to the point where we're brewing a lot where we can't do all of that with the system that we currently have here. So I think in the next couple of years, there's going to be some really exciting updates from us. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
Follow, subscribe, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, exactly. And just coming out of the pandemic, we were extremely lucky to be a strong survivor of the pandemic, even when we completely had to shut our taproom down because we couldn't sell beer to go. So that's where like other breweries were able to sell growlers, crowlers for people to stop by, even if they couldn't serve on site.
Right, curbside and things like that.
Curbside, yeah, none of that. We couldn't do any of that.
Damn.
So we were just focused on liquor stores and really trying to promote our product that way. But like I said, we're incredibly lucky to have been strong survivors of the pandemic. We haven't bounced back completely, but we're on that trajectory. And it's to the point, like I said, like we're looking at what's coming next and those needs. So it's really exciting. We're very thankful to be here doing what we do and love. And couldn't be having more fun doing it too.
Well, honestly, we're so excited to see the developments, and we're so honored that you've invited us into the Taproom brewery here. This has been so much fun. Cheers, Maddie. Thank you again.
Cheers. Yes.
And big supporters. Anything we can do to help you as you continue that trajectory back to normal, like we're here for you guys, and just excited to see, like you said, like what comes next year.
For sure. Thanks, guys. Thank you for coming by.